So just to get started, this is the dashboard page. This is the page that you initially come to when you log in. This should look familiar for most of you, mostly used for navigation, your season management, your race management, the profile area. If you do a website through us, there's some website tools as well in the web management tab. But a couple of things on this screen that I want to highlight as I scroll down the page. First is this app favorites section. This will show you just how many people have favorited your track or series in the My Race Pass app. And I really would encourage you to send that message to your fans to favorite your racetrack in the app, because then they're going to start to get push notifications on their device when your guys' races start, or when your fantasy groups are open, or if you do a news article, or if you have a cancellation, things like that. So it makes it a lot easier to communicate with your fans and interact with your fans in an automated way with some of those things. So I really would recommend that you have, maybe your PA announcer push that, hey, you can favorite your favorite track in the app to get that kind of information. And then the other two items that I want to highlight on this screen is the sandbox page. The sandbox is a siloed environment that's a direct copy of all of your live environment data. So you can use that for testing purposes. If you want to see what happens when you try a lineup scheme, go to the sandbox and do that. What happens if I click this button, do those types of things. The sandbox refreshes once a week. I believe it's on Monday night, like in the overnight hours. So every Monday, or I should say Sunday night in the overnight hours leading into Monday. So every Monday when you come back, you've got fresh data in your sandbox. That is the most recent data. And then there's the help and support section over here. We've done a lot of work as a team with our help center and our YouTube videos. YouTube videos still kind of a work in progress, kind of always will be. But the help center articles for season management or race management have all been completely rewritten in the last 2 months. So it's possible that you can go there and get some of your own questions answered that way as well. If you don't feel like reaching out to us, you can always reach out to us, sending an email to support@myracepass.com. So that's the dashboard page. I'm going to jump forward now to the profile tab. This is all going to be really straightforward stuff here. The account page, the first page you come to in the profile tab, really all you're doing here is updating your images, your profile image, your header image. You can do whatever you want with those as long as you got the right image size, and you can download templates to show you what the right image size is. And then you can edit your profile information as well. It takes you to this profile tab, regardless of what you click on, whether it's that edit button or this, the tab, brings you to the same place. And this is where you're starting to put in, track information, your basics, length, shape, banking, address information. You can use this to supply Google Maps location data in the app so people can get directions to your facility. And none of that stuff will probably ever change unless you shorten the racetrack or physically pick it up and move it somewhere else. But the one thing that I would definitely have you come in here and look at is track features. And I really recommend and advise that you come in here and look at this at least once a year. Because as you guys do changes or upgrades or updates to your facility, this stuff could change. And you want to make sure that it's accurate, because this information will be in the app about your facility. So like for fan information, what kind of camping do you have? Do you have ATMs on site? Do you in the pits? Do you sell fuel? Do you sell tires? Those types of things. You want those types of things to be accurate, because if somebody's looking at your facility in the app, you want them to have accurate information. So definitely come in here and take a look at this track features section. And then aliases is down here as well. If the racetrack has ever been known by a different name, you add that old name as an alias. That way, if somebody searches for the old name, it still brings them to the right place. It's really not the only scenario in which this can be used, though. If you have a racetrack that can be called different things or spelled different ways, add those alternate spellings as an alias. For instance, there's I-77 Speedway out there, and they have I-77 Speedway is how they spell the track name. So they have an alias in there for I-77 or I-77 with no space, or those types of things. So if your racetrack can be called or searched for differently, add those differentiations as an alias just to make sure your fans can find your profile the most efficiently and the most easily in this area. If you need to edit the name of your racetrack, there is an edit name city option here where you can put in a new name. That goes through a request process with us and our support team so that we can verify that and we can make sure it's changed everywhere that needs to be changed via the website or, all those types of things. So if you do need to change the name, it's there. I'm going to jump into the billing tab here next. Billing, again, pretty straightforward stuff. You can change your card on file over here, view your current subscription plan. You can all of your previous invoices here will be links. So you can view all of your previous invoices, whether that be for race management, whether that be for a website support and hosting fee, any of those types of things. You can view all of your previous invoices there. And then you can add all access accounts, free subscriptions in the app based on the plan type that you have. So if you're on a plus plan, it can be 2. If you're on a platinum plan, it can be 4. If you're on a partner plan, it can be 6. But it's free app subscriptions. So the app itself is free. Just, quick run through the app. Your track schedule, your tracks point standings, your tracks profile, free for users. Your entries, lineups, and results on race night, free for users. Some of the paid options include live timing and scoring, which is the basic plan for in the app, $8 a year. Some of the other features for a paid plan include sanction points tracking, as well as the ability to play fantasy racing. So you can give out some of those paid features in the app for free with these free all access accounts down here. Obviously we have a ton of them, but you can either do 2, 4, or 6 depending on your plan type there. The rewards page, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here because this is in the process of changing. I will have an email out to all clients probably next week, but it might take another couple weeks before it's ready to announce. But we're going to have new rewards buckets here. So just, be aware that that's on the horizon coming yet for 2023. The buckets are largely going to be the same though. If a certain number of events, running MRP Live exclusively for a certain percentage of those events, having tickets out there, selling a certain number of tickets, having apparel out there, selling a certain number of apparel items. And then the last one is going to be based around fantasy, just so you're aware. But we'll have more information on that stuff moving forward. Just be aware that this rewards page right now, the information isn't quite accurate. Users page is next on the list. Users page is where we're going to start to show information for user permissions. So when I add a user permission, there are a couple of buckets for permissions that you can add. First off, when you add one, first, last name, email address. Email address has got to be associated with a MyRacePass account. If it's not, they'll get an email to create a MyRacePass account, those types of things. So you want to make sure it's a valid email address for them to be able to have an MRP account. But beyond that, user permission buckets. So if you're adding somebody as an administrator to the program, like they need to have access to being able to do lineups and entries and result, all those types of things, season management, all that stuff, you're going to add them as a site administrator. But there are a couple of other ones here as well. Box office users and ticket redemption users, both are related to our online ticketing tools. If you're adding somebody as a box office user, that will give them access to our front gate box office point of sale system to be able to sell tickets at the front gate. Built for reserved ticketing, but it does work with GA tickets as well. And then ticket redemption user, that will give somebody access to the in-app scanner to be able to scan tickets in the MyRacePass app in their mobile device. So you can either specifically add box office or ticket redemption permissions, or you can add the entire suite of tools by adding them as an administrator, whatever you'd like to do that. Designer role won't apply. That's an internal tool. You can edit any of those permission options by clicking the blue option on the right side of the screen, and you can delete an option for anybody. So whatever you need to do there. But that's basically just adding administrators. And then the permissions tab and the clear cache option, developer tools, you won't see any of those. So that basically takes us through the profile tab. Again, all really straightforward stuff. Billing page and rewards and profile and those types of things. I'll take a second here before we jump forward to season management, kind of leave it open for questions if anybody has any on any of that stuff, any of the stuff that we've already gone through or seen. I know a lot of you guys are longtime MRP users, so it's probably review for a lot of those things. But does anybody have any questions on that stuff before we move forward to season management?
Yeah, I do, Austin.
Okay, perfect.
Back when you were talking about favoriting the track to get push notifications, what generates a push notification?
It's automated. So when in MRP Live, like we'll recognize when MRP Live is connected and when you have cars on the track. So at that point, in an automated way, it'll send the notification that your race is underway. When you have all your entries in and create your lineups for the first time, at that point, it pushes the notification telling folks that fantasy groups are live. If you go to season management and cancel an event, at that point, they'll get notified that the event is canceled. So those types of things. So there's automated triggers in the program that will automatically send out those push notifications to folks.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. All right. I will jump forward to season management here, and we'll talk about creating basically a race season, a schedule, those types of things. So at the top left the screen, for whatever reason, this year over year, this continues to get missed. But you want to create a new season for a new calendar year. We have a lot of tracks that will just add their new schedule to their old year, and then things get haywire, and they call me and say, why is this haywire? Well, this is why. For every calendar year that you run, you want to add a new season. You can add, a new season for 23 if you haven't yet. Strongly recommend to do that. Get your schedule out there, all that kind of stuff. You can add past seasons as well. If you want to start to put in results data for prior seasons, more than welcome to in this screen also. So creating a new season is literally just Jan 1 to December 31 for the year. I've already got one for 23, so I'll stop there. But it's just basically a new calendar year. First step then is this config tab. Config is where we're going to start adding the series, and we're going to start adding the classes that are going to race at your racetrack throughout the course of that year. I think everyone here is a track. Do I have any series in here tonight? I don't think so. Ross?
I should have mentioned this right at the beginning. If you guys see that chat window over there, if you could just post which track you're with, that would be helpful for us as well. At least for me anyway. I apologize, but if you can just jot down over there which track you're with, that'll kind of help us answer questions and keep tabs on our coverage, I guess, as far as IMCA or crate racing goes.
Yep. Yeah, I know, Ron, you're both. You got a track and a series, but for tracks, you're basically just going to add the series that are running and then the classes that are running throughout the course of the year. I always recommend to add the series first, just because it's a little bit more efficient. When you add the series first, the class associated with that series will automatically be added to your list. So if I add World of Outlaws, it'll add 410 sprint cars. If I add Lucas Oil late models, it'll add Dirt Super late models, all the way through all your regional series, all that kind of stuff. So add the series first. And then once you've added the series, we'll add the classes associated with that series. So to add a series is pretty straightforward. If you click add series, it'll bring up all of the series that you've used before. But other than that, you can go to the more series option and all series, and it's just a string of text at that point. So again, I can run Slow Racing Night in America, just search for it. You're right there. Same the World of Outlaws, all that kind of stuff. Basically just adding the series that you're going to run that way. And again, that adds the class automatically. Now, when we're adding classes, it works a little bit differently because a lot of this is going to be based off a sanctioning body. So when I add classes, this is going to become extremely important. First, if you hit add classes, there's the list of all the classes you've used before. But when I go to more classes, there's an all classes option, but there's also a sanctioned classes option. This will be, really extremely important to do this correctly, especially for Crate Racing USA and IMCA. Really, in the future, this will become valuable as well. So use the sanctioned classes option and pick what sanctioning body your classes are. So IMCA, you can add your IMCA hobby stocks, your IMCA race savers, your IMCA modifieds, all that kind of stuff. Same thing if I were to go and add Crate Racing USA, or really any of our other sanctioning bodies, Crate Racing USA Dirt Late Models, Crate Racing USA Sports, all that kind of stuff. They're all here. So you want to make sure that for your sanctioned classes, you're using the correct sanctioning body class for that class. And you can rename those. They don't have to be called IMCA stock cars, but we want to use the IMCA stock car class or the Crate Racing USA Street Stock class. We want to use the correct class. And then if you're running any classes that are not sanctioned, then at that point you can go to all classes and you can just pick generically from the class list. So wing sprint cars, 305s or 360s or 358s or 410s or whatever. All the different wing sprint car classes, or same thing exists for all the different modified classes. So we've got any non-sanctioned class, the dirt big blocks, the regular out of the box A mods, the regular out of the box Midwest mods, all those types of things. But if you're a sanctioned track running a sanctioned class, want to make sure that you are choosing the correct class there. The reason for that is for sanction management purposes for the sanctioning bodies, makes things infinitely smoother to do it the correct way that way. So I'll stop harping on that. Next tab is registrations. I'm going to come back to registrations because naturally after you add classes, the next thing you want to do is add events. So I'm going to add my events here first. The first thing I'll show you here is that in a calendar year, you can have multiple schedules. This is a fairly rarely used feature, and I want to make sure that the naming convention makes sense there. There's a season and a schedule. Sound similarly, but they are slightly different. A season, like we've mentioned before, is just that calendar year. A schedule I look at as a grouping of events or a points calculation. So if you're calculating points two different ways for the same class, you have two different point standings for a singular class, you can have multiple schedules to do that. A couple of examples, there's an asphalt track in Michigan that I always bring up here that runs what they call a Big Six series. So they've got the regular 20-25 race schedule. That's the regular season. So most tracks do. But then they also have 6 races throughout the course of the year that have their own individual and unique point standings called a Big Six series. So they have a schedule for their regular season, a schedule for their Big Six series. You can add points to one or both points schedules when you go to calculate points at the end of a race night, all that kind of stuff. There's also a use case that I've seen for this for a multi-day event. Like if you're running a 3-night show and the last night is going to be lined up based off of the points from the first 2. Yeah, I've seen multiple schedules for that reason. So folks can apply points to that mini schedule so they have a point standing to line up the 3rd night with. Those types of things. So you can have 2, but more often than not, people just have 1. So if I look at all of the events within a schedule, I can start to see all of my events that exist, and I can add new events as well. So let me create a new event. I will add it for today. We'll say, you know what, I might already have an event today. I'll add 2 events, one for today and one for tomorrow, just to double check. So I'll hit next here, and yes, I already have an event this day. But you can start to name your event, add description information for your event, and add times. Now, because this is for today, and it's late in the day, my times option has gone away. Yeah, name, description, all that kind of stuff. So the way that works on a website or on the app or in your public profile is you'll see all of the event names in chronological order. And then if I click on an event, it will bring me to the additional details or description information for the event. So whatever you want to put in there, if it's a running order, if it's a county fairs in town, if it's ticket prices, if it's purse information, whatever you feel like you want to communicate to your drivers or fans, put in that description. Set your times, set your classes that are going to be a part of that event, and then we will go add and next. And when I choose add and next, it'll bring me to the second date that I had created, which again is just another training, but you can set your time, set your classes, do all those types of things. It makes it pretty straightforward there. So I will press add here, and now I have those 2 new events on my schedule, which were the 14th and 15th. So there we go. We're good to go there. Couple of other things you can do in this screen is you can click on any of the race nights to edit any event moving forward. And from this screen, you can do a few things. One, again, edit the name, edit the description, edit the times, all that kind of thing. You can add tickets from this screen. And let me go back to an event that doesn't have tickets added yet, so you can kind of see what that process looks like. You can add tickets on this screen. This event is not eligible to receive tickets. That's perfect. So if I click add tickets here, you can either copy from a previous ticket date or you can start from scratch. And this is a really, really simple, fast, clean way to add tickets to an event. You set your availabilities. When are they available starting? When are they available ending? If you're going to have some kind of special pre-sale price for early on, you can have a pre-sale price. What do you want to happen to the event or what do you want to happen to the tickets in the event that the event is canceled? You want it to be rain checked or refunded? You can select that there. If you've gone through the process with us of doing a reserved ticketing map, there is the option to copy a map here. Although I will strongly advise, if you want to go that route to start selling reserved seating or reserved camping spots or reserved pit stalls, that you go through us to do that. Because it's a complicated process. There's a lot of moving parts, and we want to make sure it's set up correctly. But for general admission tickets, it's really simple. Then at this point, you can start on the bottom of the screen selecting the ticket types that you want to sell. You can edit the name of any of the ticket types. So if you wanted to put adult GA, I've got 100 of those, or I'm going to sell them for $10 a piece. If you got kids tickets, I have 100 of those. I'll sell those for $10 a piece. I put 10 cents. That's not what you want. Senior GA, you got 20 senior tickets. Sell those for $5 a piece. So you can start adding the ticket types that you want to add here. You can edit the name of the ticket types to have it be section based. You can do a lot of different things there. You can sell pit passes, all that kind of stuff. But adding tickets in this view, extremely simple. You can do that there. You can then share a link to where to buy the tickets to social media. Put the link on Facebook and Twitter to make it easy and fast for your fans to buy tickets. You can view the actual tickets themselves, so you can grab that link however you'd like to grab it. And then, of course, you can come back and edit all of the same information here as well. So we'll take a look at ticket management in a bigger way on Thursday, but that's just kind of an exploratory version of online tickets there when you're editing an event. So I come back in here. The other things you can do is you can change the classes or the series that are a part of the event. You can add or remove it to any of the schedules that you have listed also. And this is also where you can postpone an event. So let me go back to that same date so you can see what that looks like. I think it was March 18th that I had it going. So at this point, you can, so if the event is going to be canceled, going to be rained out, whatever, you can mark it as rained out, postponed, canceled, all those types of things. So I'll mark this as rained out. It will send a push notification to the phone number that you have on file in your ACH form if you're going to do online tickets. So I'll confirm that. The push notification will get sent out to all of your ticket clients to do the push notification. But at this point, if you have tickets for an event, this is what I was getting to, is you can migrate tickets to a different date. So if you want them to be rain checked, you can select the date that you want them to be rain checked for. Unredeem any tickets that had been redeemed at the front gate. And then this is where the verification code comes into play. We'll send a verification code to the phone number that we have on file for you on your ACH form. You put the verification code in this box, and it pushes all of the purchased tickets for that date to whatever the next date is that you choose. Refunds work similarly in the ticket management screen. That's something we'll look at on Thursday. You can do a lot of different things here when you rain out an event. Points is the next tab on the list here. So I'll show you the points tab here next. Points is kind of what you would expect a points page to be. You're going to start to see the number of events they've run, the number of features they've made, wins, top 5s, top 10s, all that kind of stuff. This earnings column off to the right is not publicly available anywhere. So if somebody goes to the points page on your website or in the app, they're not going to see the earnings. But it is a tool here for you if you'd like to use it. One of the other things you can do in this screen is you can filter by class up at the top of the screen. You can filter by schedule up at the top of the screen as well. So I'll bring up like my stock car class. And then you can click on the name of any driver to audit that driver's points on a night-by-night basis. So if I click on the name of any driver, you'll be able to say, okay, how did he do on the 27th? He got 8th, got 116 points, got $650. So you can, again, audit all of that information on a night-by-night basis. If you click the edit button, it'll bring you to a window where you can start to make changes to the points if need be. But if a driver comes to you and says, hey, this isn't right on this date, you can easily go in here and kind of see what happened. Same thing in this included event section. You can audit the information on a night-by-night basis for all drivers by clicking on the included events. It brings you to a link to the points and pay tab on race management. And then there are non-points events listed here as well. So if you've run any event where you did not calculate points or you calculated points and applied it to a different schedule, it'll show as a non-points night here. And then also there is a championship settings option. This is another not often used feature, but it is extremely valuable to those who need it. And it comes with a higher plan. Don't quite remember exactly which plan it is, but it's not available on the basic plus plan. But you can, with the advanced championship calculation, the most common use for it is for a situation where you've got throwout nights. So if you're running 18 nights in a year, they're throwing out their worst 2. This is how you would set up those throwout nights. This is how you would generate a rookie point standing. You can have point standings customized based off of age ranges. So if you have like a season or seniors only division or a young guns division or whatever, custom point standings for that. You can also do a situation where if you are taking multiple classes and combining them into one points calculation, you can use championship settings for that. But again, most common use is for those throwout nights, so you can throw out their worst nights if needed. That's the most common use for it. Didn't go back to registrations yet, so let me go back to registrations here. Registrations is a way to gather driver information before the season or before an event. So when they register, they'll send you information like, obviously their name, contact, email and phone number, address. They'll send you transponder options, the transponder number, the car number options as well that they want for the car number. They can send you owner information, emergency contact information. There is a jacket size in there for whatever reason. There's a lot of options that they'll send you via registration. You can have a registration be an annual, once-a-year registration. You can also have it event-specific. You have a singular event that you want to have a registration for. You can do it that way. There's a miscellaneous competitor option for any racing events that you have that don't, for whatever reason, meet the criteria of the 2 above. And then there's also a general registration option that we have kind of keyed in for a non-racing event. So think of a banquet or a pit party or something like that. You can use registration for all of those things. Once you have a registration that exists, you can do a couple of things here. You can obviously view the registrants. You can click on online registration to get to the link for that registration. You can share right here as well. So you can share the link to registration to Facebook and Twitter so your drivers can easily access it. Then you can edit the registration as well. And this is where you can start to put in some of the other features, like if you want to make it active or inactive. If there's any kind of entry fee, you can collect membership fee or license fee or entry fees for an event in our registration platform. You can add different fees on a per class basis. You can add late fees. So again, if my base fee is $50, but it's actually $80 for my 410s to register, I would just add an additional $30 here, those types of things. The other thing on this screen that you can do via registration is you can add downloads. So, obviously in our registration data, we don't collect social security number or tax ID information as a cloud-based program. It makes it difficult for us to do that. But you can add downloads here. When someone registers, they'll get a confirmation email, obviously, and anything that you've put in this download section will show up as an attachment to that confirmation email. So you can put in like a W-9, you can put in minor release forms, you can put in, a flyer with your full schedule if you want them to have that. You can put in a lot of things here, and basically whatever you want your drivers to have access to, whatever forms you need them to fill out. I'm going to view the registrants here. When someone does register, you'll need to confirm them. Both of my registrants are confirmed, but I will kind of show you what the registration form looks like. So first off, here's the registration form. You're getting your, competitor information here, all that kind of stuff. Notice there's a social security number or a signature line here as well. So if you wanted to print off that form and bring it to the back gate, you can have them fill in that information that way. But when you confirm them, you'll basically confirm that they turned in all of their forms, assign them a default car number, assign them a default transponder number, those types of things. And then in the registrant info and additional info options, you can start to edit some of those things. So again, I can put in a default transponder number, numbers, years raced, if they're a rookie. If they're a rookie, they'll tell you that they're a rookie during the registration process. If they've turned in all their forms, all of those types of things. So you'll be able to save and work with all of those things. And then when the driver shows up at the back gate, the program will actually tell you if they've registered or not. And if you're requiring them to register, we have a license or membership check option at that point as well in the entry screen. So a lot of things you can do here in registrations, a lot of tools, and we encourage you to use this creatively to be able to gather the information that you need to gather. I'll tell you, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I get from tracks the first time we train is that, hey, we've done registrations the same way for however X many number of years. I don't really see a need to deviate from that. Or our drivers won't fill it out, so we're not even going to try to make them, or stuff like that. And then at the end of that first season, they'll email me and they'll say, hey, we ran your 1099 report to get the money that they made all year, but now how do I get their addresses? Well, you have them register is how you get their addresses. You can manually fill that information in, but having the driver register means that they're auditing their own information. And let me tell you, when I go to IMCA Super Nationals, I'm not exaggerating, this year they had 1,000 or more entries. If all of the 1,000 IMCA Super Nationals competitors can register in advance, I know your drivers are going to be hard-headed, but I know that they can too. So it's definitely a good practice to be in to have them register. Jump ahead here to the payments tab. Payments tab is going to show you on a night-by-night basis, on a class-by-class basis for every race night, what the purse payments were for all of your competitors. I'm going to do a lot more to look at this screen more in depth when we get to tomorrow night, when we talk about race management and points and pay. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I will just tell you, you can click on any class on any race night to get to the payout screen. But then also on this screen, you can use the edit button to view, edit, or go to race management for any of the payment groups. We've added some buttons on the bottom of the screen for different reports. So there's a yearly payout report, so you can see what everybody made. And there's also a link now here to our 1099 report. This is a new button here. We put the 1099 link here too. So when you go to the 1099 report, you can see the amount of money that every payee made throughout the course of the year, whether they were a driver or an owner, as long as it was more than $600. And then if you have any classes or any events that you did not create payments for, this report now shows a link to create those payments. So again, not spending a lot of time here, but just be aware that you can come to this screen to do some of those things. And we'll go through this more in depth tomorrow when we talk about all of this information. From here, fantasy is the next option. I'll spend some time talking about fantasy racing. More tracks really should take advantage of customizing their fantasy racing experience because it is a user engagement tool. The reality is when I say my people my age or younger, I'm 30 years old, but the reality is that everybody, darn near the population demographic has a smartphone anymore. Anybody can go on their mobile device. And a lot of them, if they're racing at your track, have the My Race Pass app. So you want them to be invested in your event when they're at your racetrack or when they're watching your pay-per-view stream from home, or if they have a buddy racing or a kid racing or whatever. You want them to be engaged in your event because they're going to be on their phone regardless. So the last thing we want is for those folks to be bored during a long delay in the show, looking at Facebook, seeing their buddies camping or fishing and thinking, I should do that next weekend. They're going to be on their mobile device. Let's have them making fantasy picks, looking at where their fantasy drivers are starting in the lineups, where they're at in the results, those types of things. And we provide a free-to-you tool to be able to do that, and then you can make some money off of it as well. So the way fantasy works is the groups will be generated automatically based off of your entries. So when you calculate lineups the first time, program will look at the entry list based off the car count, group your drivers into groups of 3 or 4 or however many else. Usually it's about 3 or 4. Fans will be able to go in and make picks. Then based off the way your races finish, those picks will generate points, and you'll have a winner in each class and an overall winner at the end of every race night or of any schedule that you've got as well. So you'll have a nightly winner and a season-long winner automatically. All of that happens without any input from you. By default, that happens already. What you can do to start to augment that process, one of the things you can do is you can add custom leaderboards. So if you've got, again, a 3-night weekend, or you've got individual dates that you want to have a fantasy challenge for, you're going to put every date in here that you want, all the, individual schedules, whatever you want to do, title it, pick the classes that are going to be involved in that fantasy challenge, and add that custom leaderboard. And then once you've got a custom leaderboard, notice I said when you create a leaderboard, you can title it. This is one of the areas where you can start to collect some income based off of this. There is no reason why you can't go to a marketing partner who's maybe on the fence about getting with you, but says, hey, I want more than just a billboard. What can you give me that's more than just a billboard? Well, you can be the headline sponsor of our fantasy challenges. That is a fan engagement tool that'll get mentioned over the PA that, by the way, we have in our suite of broadcaster tools. So if you want your broadcaster to start showing fantasy racing information on your pay-per-view streams, they can do that. And you can use this as really a way to get a whole lot more eyeballs than just a billboard. I'm not saying billboards aren't valuable. Absolutely they are. Sell all of the billboards that you possibly can. But if you want to offer somebody something that's a little bit more and get a little bit more money out of them, this fan engagement tool is going to be targeted to your most passionate fans, can be displayed in a number of different ways, and is just an extremely valuable thing for that reason. The other thing you can do when you click on one of the leaderboards, you can rename it, you can do all those things. You can add prizes. So again, marketing partner wants to give away, Bob's Garage wants to give away certificates for 50% off oil changes. You get Flo to give out link to a half off stream, whatever you want to do. Start to add prizes for however many positions you want, however, different price types as well, giving out free tickets to the next race, giving out $5 to the concession stand, giving out merchandise, title and description, what the estimated value is. You can start to give away fantasy prizes. I'll tell you, even having a stupid, little, small, simple prize is going to dramatically raise the engagement of how this works. There's a track that I'm aware of that I'll use as an example, that when they run their biggest race of the year, what they do for a fantasy prize is they get a yellow VP Racing Fuel jug. They have all the A main starters sign it, and they give that away for their fantasy prize. So they've invested all of like 15 or 18 bucks into this. And their fantasy participants go from around 100 to around, 250 to 300 because there's this $15 fuel jug that somebody wants to put in their basement on a shelf. So little things like that can make a difference. Or again, if you've got a high V fantasy challenge and they want to give away a $25 gift card to the store, give it away via fantasy. Like, let's get them exposure in that way as well. You start to see who's winning the fantasy groups. We don't, obviously, in our demo profile, we don't have any, nobody makes fantasy picks for a fake racetrack. So we don't have any leaderboards. But you can start to see what events and classes are included in the group, what the standings are, all of those types of things. And use fantasy to work for you in that way. Last thing I'll show you here, I guess not last thing, I'll show you a couple of reports. But last thing in season management is the suspension screen. This is a brand new feature. We're talking last 2.5 to 3 weeks released, brand new feature. But you can start tracking suspensions for your tracker series in this screen. Sanctioning bodies have been able to do this for a while, but you can start to add suspensions here as an individual racetrack as well. So when I go to add a suspension, you'll basically be able to put in a suspension type. Rules or misconduct, or there was a lot of weird stuff going on in the racing world this past weekend. If you needed to suspend somebody for stealing a fire extinguisher and throwing it at another race car, I'm telling you, it happened this past weekend. So you can, misconduct or, a claim refusal. Man, remember claims? They used to be a big deal. You can add a fee in here if a fee needs to be added, and then you assign that to a competitor. So my man Chris Krug doesn't know it yet, but he's going to get suspended for, we'll say, until the 18th. He's going to be suspended for the next 4 days. If you want to have any internal notes or any notes that show up at the back gate, you absolutely can. Put a $50 fee in here for him, and he definitely misconduct. And next. And now I've got the suspension added. So at this point in the suspension process, you can, when you come in to edit this, you can lift the suspension if he's met his criteria. You can tell the program that the fee was paid or unpaid, and those types of things. And you can also add the classes that he is going to be suspended in. So I had 410 wing sprint cars, whatever else. And then if he is suspended, you can go back a number of days or weeks or however many you want to revoke the points for in accordance with the suspension. So if he had earned points over the last 3 weeks and you want to take them away because of the suspension, you absolutely can. So, all those types of things exist in the suspension management tool. And then when you go into the entry screen, and I actually will show you that here quickly before we move too much further forward. If I go to the entry screen and I'm going to start to add Chris Krug as a driver, hey, this entrant has an active suspension. It will remain active until 3/18. And then you'll have to allow the entry with the suspension if you want to be able to add that driver. So that message shows up when you try to put them in the entry list right then and there. So that can be a valuable tool as well for Traxxer series who are interested in suspending drivers. That's basically everything in season management. Again, suspensions is brand new. So if you're in on this, you're literally one of the first people hearing about suspensions because we haven't communicated that to everybody yet. The other things that I'll show you here is there's a reports tab in season management where you can view the current points and pay, the IMCA or WSOTA point averages, or the suspension bypass report, which comes in effect with this. So suspension bypass, if you have anybody who is suspended, who you have bypassed the suspension to allow to compete, this report will show that information. One other report that I want to highlight is there is an IMCA specific report. Let me see if I can find it here. There we go, IMCA race report. We worked with Virginia at IMCA to put together this report. So you can run the report for any specific race night, and you can then send this report to Virginia, and it'll show you payout information, points information, all of those types of things for each class. And she can use that to track whatever she needs to track. I think the payout is in there because if you win a race more than $1,000 to win, you're eligible for the All-Star race, stuff like that. So all the things that she needs to track, you can send that report to Virginia at the end of each race night, and she can do everything she needs to do with it. Some of the other reports that exist in our reports tab, you can do a lot with the entry lists. So, if their addresses, their transponder lists, their average pill draw, I really like. It'll show you everyone's average pill draw throughout the course of the year on a class-by-class basis. So if somebody says, hey, I'm always getting the short end on the pill draw, you can show them, hey, you're right, or hey, this is the information here. Lineup reports, I'll go through this when we go through race management, but there's 3 really valuable lineup reports that exist here. Same thing for results. We showed you the IMCA race results, but there are yearly hard chargers. So you can see how many cars everybody's passed throughout the course of an entire schedule. So you know who's really actually passed the most cars all year, those types of things. A lot of the points reports that exist in here are going to be valuable as well. Your point average for the IMCA specific stuff, current points and pay to show you the current standings, how many points or pay they've earned by date, 3 race point averages, all those types of things. There's a lot of information in here. This is where our 1099 report lives as well, and we'll show you that tomorrow night. And then there are a couple of competitor reports as well for stats or DQs or things of that nature. So quick look at some of the reports. A lot of them might have information that's valuable to you, so I encourage you to look through all of those. But that's everything that I wanted to show you tonight.